Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdicus Dave. Today I am joined by Billy Visnaw. Did I say that right? It sounds like I
Uh,
butchered it.
no, you're okay. It's close enough. It's a hard one for most, I promise.
How do you pronounce it?
Yeah, it's Visnaw, but
Visnaw.
it's so weird. It's a weird run with it.
Yeah, I got a name like I got a name like that too. It's Friant, Friant, but we always get Frint or some version of it. My wife will fight with people every time now, but like I've been hearing it mispronounced for so long. I usually don't say anything unless someone says it right because that's like more odd.
That's me too. Like everybody always puts like when I grew up, everybody put an E in it, and I even got like a like my sixth grade certificate that they're like, yeah, you can cash this in later, and there was like an E in it, and I'm not gonna correct him. I'm just gonna let him put it on my name badge. I'm like,
It just gets old after a while.
yeah.
So you are heading up Tales from an Initiative. It is a D&D show, not a live D&D show. You guys are like pre-recording it, editing it, and going to be throwing it up on the tubes.
Yep. It should be a little later in October, but yeah, we are. We're actually jumping into highly editing everything, so we can kind of take out the the slower moments and kind of make it a more digestible view for everybody. And we're huge D&D fans, so it'll still be in there just as well.
Yeah, like I was telling you earlier, like I found a TikTok from one of your cast members talking about it, and they were talking about the new show that was coming out, and then we started messaging back and forth, and I was like, well, you want to come on and talk about it? And they're like, you should really be talking to Billy. So we're joking. I got D&D catfished essentially.
Well, I like it's funny because like that is actually how it happened for even when we opened up our channel to more people
Mhm.
is like I started running the rest of our social medias, and she is very good at like Kai is great at TikTok. Kai, if you're watching, you're great at TikTok. But I like she went like good with the first couple TikToks she made, and it started really getting big on TikTok. And then like everybody would come back over to the channel and be like, "Hey Kai, like what's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm Billy. Like I'm actually like the guy like who like I'm the DM. I direct, I edit." Kai is like a huge part of it too, but I'm like, but I'm the one that kind of like recruits you in and talks to you a little bit. And they're like, some of them would either be like, "That's awesome, let's talk more," or like, "I'm good, bye." Oh, okay. I'm like, great. See you later, man.
uh, TikTok has been is like one of the great new spaces, the new frontier for D&D. I'm really digging it because it's just like a totally different vibe, and also I'm just super impressed with anyone that can say anything in like a minute. Like me and Ted wouldn't even be able to introduce ourselves in a minute. Like that's why we don't have much content over there.
No, I'm the same. Like that's when she came to me and we were kind of talking about it the first time. She was like, "Yeah, like I know how to do this really well," and I'm like, "Oh, can you make like 5 minute video?" I'm like, "I could put a YouTube video up there and like we could do well." She's like, "No, it's like short videos." I'm like,
Yeah.
"All right, nope." No, like I will watch, but
I love it because I have like the attention span of an amoeba. So even like some of my favorite YouTube content creators, I don't watch them most of the time just because I'm like, Jesus Christ, Guy Schlanders from How to Be a Great GM, 45 minutes. Can you say it in less? A guy is like one of my favorite people on the planet. But yeah, and so I tend to like shorter videos, even though we tend to make longer videos. I don't know. I don't get it.
no, I get it. I totally understand because I'm like, even the content I watch, like I can get into some really cool stuff, and then there's days that I'm like, I need to watch a bunch of content really quick and really fast.
So how did Tales of Initiative come about?
Easy. I this story is really cool to me. Like it's personal to me because like I've watched Critical Role for a lot of people, inspired a lot of people, but I got really inspired by Dimension 20 and Brendan Lee Mulligan, who's a great DM in my opinion, at kind of playing the rule of cool. But I just got off, like I just finished working, and like I kind of switched jobs to a stay-at-home job, and this was back in like October. So I started having a lot more time at home. I started having a lot more time, with everything going on. But I started being able to spend more time up in my office, and I wanted to do something. I was like, hey, I was kind of talking to some of my content creator friends. I'm like, man, I would really enjoy to put some content out that was a little different than what we're normally like into. I was running a home game at the time with a couple friends of mine. One of them even jumped, or yeah, one of them jumped into our season 1 as well. But um, January came, and I went on this binge of just watching Dimension 20 and like a little bit of Critical Role, and I've played a lot of D&D in my time, and I'm like, man, I edit a lot right now. I'm like, I could do something like this. I'm like, I could do something that would be like a smaller format of like seasonal one shots that would be akin to like kind of like a TV show. And I was kind of spinning that idea around with some of my content creator friends. I'm like, I know there's like one or two other channels that do it right now. I'm like, but I think we could do it differently and still put a really fun spin on it. Um, I'm like, what do you guys think? And everybody I've talked to was like, yeah, this sounds awesome. Like, I think this would be a really fun experience. And the amount of support I had was like incredible. I mean, I had a lot of really good friends that were like, you know what, if you do this, like, we will make time out of our day or of our week and, make sure that we can get somebody to be there to help you. Um, and in January, I took as much vacation time as I could to start writing out some of the seasons I wanted to do, and I was like, I put a lot of time into like really um, making like a really good story and like really writing everything out myself because I didn't want to do modules. I didn't want to do I didn't want to do something that like people would know, so we could do good surprises, we could do good twists, we could do good moments where people are like, whoa, like I didn't see this coming. um and in January I put a team together. Granted, I had a lot of people fall out. Like we dropped a lot of people right before we started airing season 1, and I was really worried we weren't going to get it off the ground. But we finally, I got stuck with the 5 people I have now, and they helped me produce every episode we've done so far. Um, and this kind of, it turned into a bigger
You
thing.
said stuck. I think you meant gifted.
Yeah, I will say I am definitely gifted with these people. Some of them stuck, and you know who you are. I'm just kidding. But no, I was really like, I couldn't even imagine like how well it went. We started filming in March, and they have stuck on for every episode we filmed, and they have been troopers. Um, and we should be wrapping August 25th of filming. But yeah, I mean, it just came from an idea of me wanting to do something that was like really story driven and could
Yeah.
and can make people feel like they were part of it. Like, I want this channel to be more homegrown and more locally grown than it is like bringing on big celebrities and bringing on like all these different people. I want like the neighborhood to be like, hey, we could jump into Tales of Initiative anytime and have a good time with it.
So you're
So
you're getting pretty close to like wrapping up and shooting like the full season all. So when you put it up, you'll be able to release it regularly, and it's complete.
yep, that's the idea. Like, I wanted when I came with the idea at first, like I noticed, or I kind of was thinking like, I don't want to put like an episode out, wait 6 months, put an episode, like maybe an episode after. Like, if I'm gonna make it, like, I want it to be like a TV show. I want like an episode out, I want another episode out. Like, I want them to be so like consecutive that like the viewing experience isn't broken by like a giant time gap.
So I mean, there's a lot of like D&D shows at this point, right? What do you think the selling point of Tales of Initiative is?
Easy. We like, a lot of people bring on or either have like one core cast that they stick with, or they have like a few guests that they do like here and there. Tales for me is like, we bring on everybody and anybody, and like we run those one shots with like literally anybody. So like, I can get together a group of like 6 people, and that might be the TikTok star you were super excited to see like make some video a couple days ago, or it might be like the YouTuber you've watched for years now. And like, I don't stop if they haven't played D&D. Like, if they haven't touched D&D before, cool, I will teach you along the way and we'll make a really good game out of it. But I think the big twist for me is like just being able to like outreach to so many people, and bring on people that necessarily haven't played before, and and kind of come from all these different walks of life. I think that's going to be something that's going to be different, and we're editing it down a lot. We're taking out like the big heavy breathing moments and like the slower like combat's going to be a lot faster than you normally watch, because sometimes combat, I love it to death, can get a little bit slower for some people. um and that's our goal, is to make it like a viewable, digestible show that kind of throws on new guests that you could be like, oh my god, like either relate to or like you've known of or have fun with at some point.
When you say speed up your combat, it just made me think of my wife took this video of we have a bunch of kittens right now for some reason. And one of our cats were playing, and she went to shoot a video of it, but for some reason it shot it like 5 times or something. So it's just like rapid fire. And I was just like, all videos should be shot that way. Is that how we're speeding up combat?
Yeah, yeah, we're just 5 cats going at it at one time. Oh god, I like, it was funny because like that's our combat was like, I think that's what really made me speed combat up, is we did season 1, and I
Yeah.
think there was one fight where I was like I sat there with them, and like again, everyone's learning, so like we're like going over the rules and everything, and I'm like, oh my god, I am gonna have to cut out so much. And then after like I started going back into it and like taking scenes out, and I watched like one full cut of it, I was like, okay, this looks really good, and I like it now. I'm like, but like, oh, at first I'm like, it was like a 4-hour process to get through the first fight, and I'm like, nobody's gonna want to watch it. I'm like, nobody's gonna want to be here for this. Like, this is way too long. And now it's like 19 minutes, and it is very fast and very easy. But yeah, combat. I love combat, but combat can definitely be one of those things where it's like, all right, man, I know you're planning your move out for 35 minutes, but just go, just please go already.
Some things are better experienced than they are observed, right? Like, wiffle ball or baseball, like they can be kind of fun to play, but like watching them to me is like watching grass grow. And I have to say, RPG combats can be the same. Especially depending on the table and how indecisive players are, and like all that's okay at your home game. It's not really a big deal, but when you're putting on a show, you know, I find that most people don't want to sit through that. Matter of fact, when I used to watch Critical Role, my the part that I enjoyed the most was when they were not in combat. I would fall asleep as soon as they rolled initiative. So
Yeah, it's like that's kind of where I always got to, is like I even like Dimension 20, like I one of the fights I was watching for them was when they did their Fantasy High season, and they were doing like, I think they got to this like dwarven skate park, and my wife loved watching this stuff with me. And like we got to the fight, and it was like halfway through the 2-hour episode, and she's like, I love these people and they're awesome. She's like, but I can't finish the fight. And I was like, I get it, man. I'm like,
yeah,
it's really cool, but I love hearing them like role play more. I'm like, I get
yeah.
it.
If
Totally.
everyone just learned to insert the sped up 5 cats fighting.
All you need is 5 cats fighting. It'll get everybody in. All the old interneters
Oh
will get
man.
everybody.
Now I gotta want to do that. Just imagine the audience faces. Roll initiative, and then it just goes to these 5 cats fighting, and it's all sped up.
I'm just gonna throw that in there at one episode. I'm just not gonna say anything, and just one day just look for it. I got your back.
So, are you doing campaign arcs, or are they one shots?
So it's kind of different. So like with season 1, I'm doing a one shot. I might go back to like picking that world back up later. I know a lot of people, like, as we kind of got to the end of it, they were like, I would love to do more with my character, and I would love to do more with this setting. Um but I'm like, I kind of wanted to like aim it in a way where we would do a new genre every time. So like
Okay.
for like the one we're working on now is Hearts of Lydia. That's our season 1. That one is more of like a modern comedy fantasy. Like it started off a little serious, but then like with the players, I was like, I'm gonna have to rebrand this for it to be. But they really get into the roles. There's a real serious story, but they also are like very comedic, and they're playing off each other really well, and like, and making scenarios a lot funnier. But they're trying to figure out like basically what happened, um from this big beginning event that happens. Like a small spoiler is like they end up going into this like place where they're supposed to get like assigned a job, and something really bad goes like go. It's basically a job fair, and something real bad happens like immediately, and like these kids are basically going into the roles of adults trying to like figure out how to stop this, and whether it's their problem or it's not their problem. And like that's kind of the struggle they go through most of the season, is like they're getting this problem thrust upon them, and like some of them handle it very well and some of them handle it very selfishly. And it's interesting, it's very interesting. But going into like the idea of how this is going to run is like I would like to do a longer season. I think our season 2 we're working on I'll drop it now. We're working on a high seas adventure, and that's something that like I want to do a longer run of.
Yeah.
But I again like I do have an endpoint for it at some point, because I want to do like a seasonal kind of feel for it. So like I want the high seas to end, and then we'll jump into some different kind of content, and then maybe for like season 4 we'll go back to Lydia. But yeah, like it's always going to be different, because I want everybody watching to be able to like kind of not get like I don't, and I love Critical Role. There's nothing against Critical Role, but like I don't want them to like feel like there's so much of it that they're kind of like afraid to like jump in at some point. Like I want it to be like short, digestible bites. And
Okay. How long are the episodes?
about an hour and a half is usually like an hour and a half to like 2 hours at the longest. It should be I think like 20 episodes for season 1. I still haven't done all the editing, so I don't know the exact episode order. I had it somewhere between 18 and 21. But I think 20 is where I'm kind of landing at with it right now.
Okay. I mean, hour and a half, 2 hours. That's a good amount. That's a movie, right? So
yeah,
that's not too bad. Yeah, that's my thing with Critical Role is like, I liked it, but like 4 hours or more. I mean, their last episode was 7 hours. I'm like, oh my god, you just hate everybody. They're like, they really want it to be done, because 7 hours seems like it could have been like 2 different, episodes.
Yeah. Well, that's like me and one of the players I was playing with. His name's John. We were both like going into watching it, and I was like, because I've watched a lot of their season 1, but I've never watched a lot of their season 2. And we got like 6 episodes in, and both of us are like, I'm like, I really enjoy this. I love it, but I'm like, I can't. It's like, I know there's so many more episodes I gotta watch before I get to where everybody's at. I'm like,
yeah, you just got overwhelmed.
Yeah, but I love it. I love all the players. Like Matt Mercer's a great DM, and like the characters they have on there. Like Sam is awesome. He's one of my favorites out of everybody. But I love all of them. But Sam is his little not the brave is just the funniest thing in the world to me.
Yeah, like we with campaign 2, we started like reviewing them. I was like, it seems like a good spot. It's like, they're just getting started, so we started doing that, and we did. I don't know how many episodes we did, but Ted, then went back and watched the first campaign, and what that really taught me was like, even though I like what they do, and they do it really well, I just don't really like watching stream shows. Mm-hmm. And also, like, for that amount of time is way too long. So, I'd much rather be doing. It's like sports, like growing up, like, and even now, it's like I'd much rather do the thing than watch the thing. And also, too, I feel like most of the content creators I know don't really watch content, right? Because you have time to like make it, create it, or watch it. Doing both is very hard. Yeah. That's probably why I like micro content and really short stuff, but because I can watch a bunch of it and I kind of like binge it, and also too, like, a lot of times I'll watch stuff that's not related to RPGs just because I do this stuff so much.
Yeah, no, it's like I agree. It almost makes me sad, because like once I started getting into content creation, like I've fallen behind on so many of the things I used to watch, and like I miss it. Like I miss that like good blend of being able to just jump into any content.
And like how, like, you're editing down from what?
The first episode I did, I dropped it from 3.5 hours down to 1 hour and 25 minutes.
Yeah,
So
that's a lot of editing.
yeah, I actually like I didn't want to do anything out of pocket until we started like really getting into it. But that was the
Mm.
first thing I bought. I was like, I'm buying an editor to help me. I'm not buying. I
I
hired. I
purchased an
bought.
editor.
He's mine now. But I hired one that like started helping me just get through everything, and like that has been
Yeah.
a god save, honestly. Oh man. But
Well,
yeah,
you had
it's
mentioned like I forget exactly how you phrased it, but you're like, oh, I was home and have all this time, so I figured I could do some editing. Do you do that? Is that what you do?
yeah. So I'm kind of I guess I wear a lot of hats in this business at this point, but
Well, I meant
um
outside of this in your day job. Do you?
oh no
Is
no
this
so I'm actually like I kind of I've consult and I'm a customs broker, so
okay?
I help out a lot of businesses with like different marketing things and like different management kind of like ways to kind of shore up on management and stuff. And
Gotcha.
then in my other time, I help packages get through the border is the best way I can narrow it down. It's nothing fun compared to like what I
I could have
normally
used you a while ago. So okay, so essentially you started off kind of a hobbyist with doing this
yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Okay. Um, weird hobby, but okay. Like
I know.
I
Gotta
feel
make
like
it fun.
editing, especially when you're editing yourself, it requires a certain amount of self-loathing.
Oh
Or
yeah.
either self-loathing or you really have to love yourself. There's no room
Oh
in the middle.
no, I tell my wife all the time, like it's the hardest thing for me to do is edit my own voice because like hearing me, I'm like, God, shut up. I'm like, just like, I'm like, you're great, you're doing awesome. But after 5 hours, I'm like, I want to punch me.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
so over it.
I know, I know. My wife would walk by and I'd be like, "Shut up, Dave Front. You're an idiot. Why can't you talk?"
It's like, that's not funny. What are you saying? I do that all the time. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
And also like all those idiosyncrasies that you don't pick up on, they're just in your face, like the fillers, the likes, the ums.
Yeah, that's I got really bad with our first episode. It was really good, but it was one of those things where like I like every technical difficulty that could happen during
Yeah.
filming did. And like one of the things that I did was I was like I got nervous and I started like saying and like there was
Yeah.
one like long scene where I'm like debating on cutting the ums out because it was so bad of me just going
Yeah.
like and like the my I have three screens in front of me and the one that had their faces on it went black and I was like, cool. Like, and I'm like having a panic attack almost because I'm like, are
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
guys kind of here? Like, and I couldn't stop filming because it was like a crucial part. And I'm like, oh, this is the worst. And if you even like watch it, you'll notice because I couldn't even cut it out. There's just a point where I'm like, oh, yeah, let's keep going. Like, not trying to do my best to like reel it back in, which I did. But again, the filler parts were something I had to work on really hard with the next episodes. I was like, learn to not say these things and you'll be fine.
And life will be so much better.
Yeah.
So, are all the games D&D, or do you play other games as well?
Well, I I would kind of debate it because we are aiming to do only D&D, but we did
Yeah.
recently live stream Feast of Legends. But I will also say that because of the short time we had with Feast of Legends, which is a Wendy's like campaign core book,
Yeah.
that I thought was D&D, and then I realized was an entirely different game.
Yeah, they made their own system.
Yep, didn't realize that until we got in.
Yeah.
But I we
It
did
is
that.
very D&D centric though. So like if you know D&D, you'll understand it.
That was yeah. We had a weird experience with it because when I was like jumping into Discord to kind of teach everybody it, I was like I was going over the stats and I'm like, yeah, you got I think it was wisdom and like they removed wisdom and dexterity, and I was like, yeah, I guess I'm like I'm gonna reread all this real quick. Like
Yeah.
I'll get back to all of you. But we did yeah, that campaign, and but I modified it to kind of take on a shorter route because we only had like 3 episodes we could do with it because like
Mhm.
everybody had like short times. Um, but then it kind of turned into like I guess the best way to do it or put it is like a parody of like Feast of Legends. Like they were like really joking about the characters we were bringing in, and they were like having a real crazy time with uh like joking about like these chicken nugget people and the different races that you could have for fast foods. So we made it like rather than just be like a normal like campaign like running through their maps, like we I kind of like fabricated a little bit of the land and stuff, and like added a couple of towns, and like we added like some notable brands and stuff, like Caesarland,
Yeah.
and just like some real like funny fast food moments where people could like like it would be not just focused on Wendy's. It would be like a couple like nods to like we have a nod to Jack in the Box, we have a nod to Carl's Jr. Um, there's like a nod to how Little Caesars may stuff their crust, and like there it's just ridiculous. Like it got kind of on or out of hand, but in a good way. It was really fun.
So there's some. It's more of a comedic thing.
Absolutely,
There's not.
absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with that. Come on, Little Caesars. Like their army's battle cry has to be pizza, pizza.
Well, that was like it was so much fun when like these guys are like just kind of like playing around with it because like they met Little Caesar and like they're going through this small he runs like a little tyrant of like fake pizzas because like we were talking about like how quick he could get pizzas out. So
Mhm.
they were the whole like conspiracy was that they had like he was making fake pizza people,
Yeah.
and it was really funny to watch the characters kind of like realize that they were like, oh my god, like Caesar's a tyrant, and and
Yeah.
then they take Caesar down, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a blast.
That Matt Click from Absolute Table at Top has like the best description of the hot and ready Little Caesar pizzas, and that is it's a $5 pizza that tastes like about a $7 pizza.
I couldn't put it better myself, honestly, because it really does. Like,
Hmm.
oh my god, you get a Little Caesars when it's either you have the $5 or it's the end of the day, and you're
Or
like,
you just need like a lot of pizza, and you need it cheap.
you're
So-
moving and you need all of your friends to eat something.
yeah, yeah. You promised them all pizza, but you did not promise them good pizza.
Oh god, man.
Perfect. Um, so you're about to finish up season one, and you're to start finish up season two. So what are some of the other YouTubers that people might recognize that you've brought in, or other creators?
Well, some of the ones we got off the bat, we have no, straight up. I mean, Hizzy Hay does a channel that was it was called Hizzy Hay. I think he's changing it to All That Film, but right now on YouTube it's Hizzy Hay. He has he does a lot of like movie critic stuff, and he like kind of breaks down like a lot of the different media, like in terms of, I think he did a really cool oh my goodness, I cannot think of what it is, but we both did the same one. Um, oh my goodness, he's gonna hate me, and I feel so bad, but I cannot remember what it was. But he does a lot of like dive-ins to different movies and media, and he's like a really good YouTuber, and that's how we met. Is both of us were gonna collaborate on our channels because we both met up through a different channel, and that channel was Krillcast, and we have one of their members on. His name's Will from the Krillcast. They're like a really good gaming podcast that is like talks about all of the different things going on in gaming, like and they are all. I like to also call them a Halo podcast, but they don't like to be called that.
Uh,
So yeah, but if we have so we have those guys. We have Kai, who does a lot of really great things on TikTok. Like you could find her under Agni Kai, and she kills it with the stuff. She even put on her own TikTok. Again, that's how we've met through different ways, but that's how we got onto the idea of TikTok. Is she already had like a really successful TikTok going. Um, and the other two are just personal friends of mine that jumped on for this one. but you can look forward to a lot of cooler YouTubers coming on for our later seasons as well. Like with our holiday heist one, a good friend of mine, Installation 00, is jumping on. A good friend of mine, Dashy Jinx, is jumping on. He's a really good editor for Halo. A lot of Halo YouTubers and content alike. And then for season 2, we have kind of a mix. Like there's a couple recognizable faces, but none that I can go on to yet because we have to still figure out who's going to be for the pre-production. But there are going to be some recognizable faces on season 2 as well for sure.
Nice. So are you? You had mentioned that you're writing your own stuff, so it's homebrew.
Yep. I like to take a little bit of time off and make my own world out of it. I know season 1, like I probably could have, now that I'm finishing it, I know there's a couple parts I could have showed up on, but I think for season 2 that is like completely in mind, and now I'm like excited to get into this stuff. But yeah, homebrew for most of it.
And what is kind of your like gaming style?
I like to do like, if anybody has like kind of watched like Critical Role or Dimension 20, I use them as good references just because, you know, life. I'll never be Matt Mercer ever. That's way too stressful. But I do aim towards like kind of like a Brennan Mulligan kind of play where I try to be more comedic. I try to like stick with the rule of cool. I still use the core book and like all of the rule books as like a pretty big guide, but I really like to like prefer good story moments with people.
Mm-hmm.
So I generally like encourage that while I play. And I'm a very forgiving DM, but at the same time, I do tell every player I go into this with is like I take death very seriously in the game. So if like a character dies, like we don't like, unless there's a natural way to bring them back, like you won't have like a super easy way fall out of the sky, or I won't be like they're alive again.
Yeah.
But I try to make it very like story heavy while also like mixing in like bits of comedy. And like I would say like in terms of DM style, I focus a lot on the story. I do know a lot about combat myself, and like I've played a lot of combat in earlier runs I've done, but I really like the role play aspect a lot more than I like combat, but I do enjoy combat as well. Like I can't, throw it to the side and say it's terrible. I enjoy the life out of it, but I know a lot of other people are in it to see people kind of role play with each other.
I mean, they're both part. They're the two-thirds of the game. Two-thirds of the pillar is very viable. What are some unique aspects of your campaign world that people can kind of expect to start exploring?
So it's kind of dual layered. One of the things is that it takes place 100 years after the king of the land was executed, and the king like was this great leader to begin with that kind of like brought everybody together to unify this continent, and then he started like out of nowhere like persecuting mages and like anybody with like magical prowess. And there's a lot going on like from there, like that the players kind of like unravel as they're going to figure out like what really happened 100 years ago and why the land kind of changed drastically after he was executed. And then it takes place in like the modern day in this town or in this capital city called Lydia, where they're like also unraveling like what happened in the big first event in the big job fair they had going on, which we call it Jabapalooza for a really fun reason that when you kind of get into it.
Yeah.
But like they're kind of figuring out what's going on in real time while like the sinister plot is kind of like weaving its way through the game. And like they're trying to figure out what happened back then to put together what happened now is kind of the way to look at it.
I like the spin-off of the adventuring board to a straight up adventuring job fair.
Yeah. Well, I was like, when I first got these guys together, I wanted to do something that was like on par with like kind of just like comedic more than like serious. But then like the more I got into it and started investing, I'm like, I have this great idea for this serious like story, and then like I have a real good reason for it to be called Jabapalooza, because like one of the guys that keeps buying the businesses up in the game is like just renaming them to like make the town council mad, and like kind of like just show that like the town's taking themselves way too seriously.
Yeah.
And like he was actually supposed to be a big part of the game, but the people we had in the game just never went back to like do anything else with this character. So Jabapalooza is very aptly named with like no backstory until later for like a moment. But he was supposed to be a bigger part, and now it kind of like it fizzled out like halfway through. But for everyone at home, like it's this guy that like is going around just like kind of scooping up these businesses and like trying to make his own like little monopoly of businesses in the town. And like Jabapalooza was actually named the Workman's Guild Fair for like ever. And when he got enough money to sponsor it and like purchase it, he like changed it to like the corniest, cheesiest like slogans, and like had like big guys with signs spinning out in the front, and like all these like political people are just like so upset with this guy for like doing all of these ridiculous things.
So he's just trolling the aristocrats and nobles.
Yeah, and that you kind of see it too, because like the like aristocrats and politicians kind of come back down on his business as well. Is probably you'll see a lot more of it when we go back, when we revisit this world, because like I really wanted to touch more on this guy. But he's awesome in the game. Like he's supposed to be very helpful to the players, but
they didn't care.
Yeah. No, they went in a whole different route after the
That's
end
typical.
of that. Yeah.
As a GM, if you truly love something and want to see that love die and wither on the vine, just introduce it to your players. They'll either ignore it or outright murder it.
All of season 1. That's what I was like. My heart was like, oh, I'm gonna lose everything, and I'm like,
and they will only ever latch on to the NPCs that you make up on the fly, because they're like, is there a blacksmith in this city? And you're like, yeah, sure. And you know, you just throw out some adjectives and some names, and now every single episode they want to visit the blacksmith or whatever. Insert tradesperson here.
Well, that's I'll give a small little spoiler away too. They had this butler that was supposed to be just a one-off guy, man. I mean, he was supposed to be like he was one of the characters that is kind of like figuring out this like selfish path that he's going on, because he's like really gone through a lot before the game started. And this butler was like just at the beginning, he just walks in, and like the character is fighting with his dad. And the butler's like walks in and like gives him like a little, he's like, hey, you know, you're gonna do a great job. And like this butler has went from this very serious butler character to this like getaway like driver who like is like all like they fueled him up on like a bunch of these like off the wall drugs and stuff that they had like in these like hallucinogens, and made him just this crazy like he like is like driving into like enemies and stuff, and he's like helping out in fights, and he helps them like infiltrate this place like mid season, and they just have him as a distraction, getting drunk at the bar and like starting like fights with other patrons, and he went from this like civilized goblin man to like this crazy NPC that is just off the wall at this point. And I love it. He's awesome, and he's like a fan favorite with these guys. Like they love him to death. And like even when like he took damage in battle, like these guys like were like going out of their way to like jump in front of hits to make this guy survive. And it's crazy he's been alive this long. But I love it, and I love what they've done with it, and I love that they've made their own story out of it, which is funny to me.
That, you know, that's typical. That's what you can expect from your players, pretty much.
Absolutely.
So what is the magic level that you're going with?
So like in like what kind of context? Like
high fantasy, is there any level of technology?
So yeah, so I have it so like they have orbs that are considered like cell phones almost. They can take
Okay.
pictures, they can send they can call each other. Basically the way it works is like the I can't think of what exactly the item was, but it worked
Oh,
like
sending stones, like sending
yes,
stones.
a
Yeah.
sending stone, but it worked like a sending stone with multiple like destinations instead of it being like just another sending stone.
Yeah.
Um but like it's kind of it's the magic level is like there it is like a higher fantasy. There is like kind of the idea of what they're going like I I can't say too much in case they are watching. I don't want to spoil what they're doing, but they are going after something like very like I would say highly magical
Uh,
um and it is like a world that's powered basically at least their capital city is powered directly by like this big magical like crystal. Um, so like a lot of the world is kind of a mesh between like engineering and like magic. So like they even have like vehicles like carriages with like engines in them that are actually making them run. But like there's also like arcana going through the engines to like make it like kind of like work in a way that
so
I can't
kind of like a
explain.
little bit Arcana Punk, Eberron-ish.
Yeah, like it's at least Lydia, because Lydia is like a highly advanced city compared to the ones around.
Hmm.
Where the city is like really vastly engineered because they've had such a boost in Arcana.
We're playing or we played a season where Ted ran something called Dungeons and Delving, and it was a reality TV show, kind of like Survivor or something, but it's supposed to be in the future, and every other episode takes place in a dungeon, but um, with the idea that like you would score points against other adventuring teams by how fast you could run through do the dungeon run, and then like the idea was the more like flamboyant or more like flashy or flare type stuff you could do during the dungeon run, there's the idea that an audience was watching and you would score more points from the audience. So the the main social media of that world is like their analog to Twitter, which is Hark. So that came coming up in the game.
It's it's always fun when you have like comparisons like that, and like you try
Yeah,
not to like call them by like the name that you know them as.
yeah, yeah.
That's actually really cool though. I kind of want to check that out. That's awesome because like I
Like during the one episode, like we had to use Hark in order to like send out for like a an SOS or help. So
dude, that's actually really cool though. Like I really I again like I after kind of like making this world, I'm always interested in seeing how others kind of like that's funny. That's actually really
yeah,
cool.
well, Ted did a really good job with it, and like the trick was because he knew he wanted to do like every other episode was a dungeon run, and we did like 12 episodes. But like the trick is like, well, what do you do during the non-dungeon runs, to make it interesting to keep things going? So he introduced some really fun, cool subplots that were going on, which then also it was an opportunity to interact with the other teams as well, and get a lot of role playing in, and also like there was staff that technically was running the reality show that we'd also interact with. So and like the very first episode was us having to get sponsorship. So
So cool, man. That's actually really awesome.
and then like before each dungeon run there would be a chest that you would get to access, and it would have stuff from your sponsor in it. Or or during the dungeon round one time you call out to your sponsor for help.
That is really cool to me because like it reminds me because like we've been trying to talk of like an idea of like it's not even in the idea like we haven't found a way to do it yet, but like
Uh,
one of the things we wanted to do was kind of like a Hunger Games kind of like almost like battle royale idea of like
Yeah.
D&D, and that it just with sponsors and everything that just totally like it just
Yeah,
whacked
that
my
was kind
brain
of
in the same way.
like the impetus, and also in third edition, Goodman Games put out a supplement called X Crawl, and it's essentially what we did. But like Ted was pitching us the game, and I was kind of like, "Well, you mean X Crawl?" And because he had never heard of it. But at the end of the day, like I feel like we're all kind of nerds, and we all have a lot of similar ideas. Um, and some of us get more defensive than others about like we could have been the only ones to possibly come up with that idea. I'm like, there's like only so many stories. There's only so many things out there. Eventually, we're gonna think of the same things.
Well, that's what like I even go into like I always kind of get with that. Like I with even the content I've made, like I know like even the campaign I've written, I've taken heavy influence from other like I again I like before I did all this, like I watched like thousand now that I was working from home, like I've almost watched all of Netflix and Funimation and all of their
Yeah,
giant catalogs, and like for me to say like I haven't inspired some of my greatest moments from other genres or other games is like, I mean, it's just not true. Like I enjoy, like I might have done it differently than them, but like
yeah,
I love like getting that idea from somebody, because like sometimes really great moments are things that aren't like unique to people, like, and like granted I don't take like I wouldn't take like my entire story and be like this is their story, I'm taking that, but like I've watched this one show that I was watching a while ago, I forgot the name of it, but one of the things they did was like they were like killing one of the protagonists like friends or something, and the way they did it was like they hyped it up like they were gonna like the hero was gonna come in and save them at the last moment, and like
yeah.
instead like the bad guy killed the protagonist's friend, and I was like, whoa, like that's one of those moments where like I thought somebody was going to come in and save them, and like I'm not going to spoil what we did in our season, but like what that influenced me hard on thinking of one of our fights, and I was like, this would be so cool if like they thought that the cavalry was coming, and like they thought that like the world was going to be saved because somebody like down the street the cops are coming, but instead like something blocks it off, and now they have to deal with this problem because like the battle doesn't end immediately. And again, I think some of the greatest moments are influenced, and I think that people like saying they're not is rough, because like I mean, we take influence from not only other media aspects but anything in life. I mean, we all of our greatest stories are influenced by the way we've taken things in life.
And, also like it's kind of freeing too, right? If you just lean into it. Like I've talked to plenty of creators, and they're like, I don't want to watch other stuff because I don't want it to influence me. And I'm just kind of like, I would rather just watch other stuff, let it influence me, and be like, this person said this cool thing, and that made me think of this, right?
Yeah.
Instead of pretending like everything I come up with is going to be 100% unique and original. Like I have a buddy that teaches kung fu, and I don't know if this was like a Bruce Lee quote or whatever, but like oftentimes like he's repeated it, and he's like, everyone has two hands, 2 feet, like so there's only so many combinations you're gonna ever come up with.
Yeah.
And like I think that philosophy just goes into every aspect of life, right? It's very rare at this point that someone truly comes up with something original and innovative. Like they might do it in a different way that's exciting and cool, but we've been telling stories for thousands of years now.
Yeah, and absolutely. And like, and I think like you said, like the idea that it's freeing is like I think people should just like let others kind of just like pick it apart, compare it. Like that's
Yeah,
fine. Like I love that. I personally, if somebody is taking the time to watch my content and compare it to somebody else and like be like, oh, he might have gotten that from somebody else. Cool. Like
yeah,
that makes me happy that you took the time to enjoy it enough to like you were like, you know, you brought it in comparison to something else. I don't know. I think I take it as a compliment more than I take it as like getting like upset that someone's like, you didn't have that original idea. Well, nobody ever has, like
Yeah.
it's difficult to do that.
I've run out of original ideas. The meter is run to E.
It's been years.
Yeah. So, but but also that's the great part about like being part of a collective, whether indirectly or directly. Like that gives us the ability to take other ideas and modify them and change them and be inspired by them. Um, like a lot of times I'll get comments or messages from people that want to become creators and are like, what should I talk about? Like so and so talks about this and you guys talk about that. And I don't want to just talk about the same things, but I'm like, sometimes it's just a matter of like, letting people connect with your perspective on that particular thing, even if 50 other creators have already talked about it. Like, because there's a bunch of people that will listen to all of them, right? And then there's also some people that's only going to listen to the one person no matter what. So, you need to just get in there and share your perspective.
And that's it too, is like, and I think that's another gap that a lot of people are scared to jump, is like getting like just throwing yourself into it. Like if you, even if someone's covered at 7 million, like again, I'm not doing anything original, like it's something that I know other people have done, but like, and I'm not necessarily doing it better than them. I'm just doing it differently, and I'm giving them more to like. And like even with you guys, like you guys cover a lot of awesome stuff, and like, but you guys have your own spin on it, and it's about perspective. Like it's cool because like we get to hear your guys's like your opinion on everything going on, and like your talk with somebody, and like that's different, and that's like to some people it's amazing, and it's something that you can't find out like elsewhere.
One of the cool things, like when we had Chris Perkins on, like to talk to him about, was like Acquisitions Inc. Because like I think they probably were the very first like D&D game for entertainment for people to watch. And like, imagine being the pressure of that, of doing that, and be like, is anybody going to care about this? And to see like, where that started from to like where it is now.
And that's like, and for you guys, like that's all, like that is so cool. And like to me, like it's something that like I know you guys like you think about it in a way of like, is that interesting to somebody? And then there's people like me that are like, that's really cool. Like I love that, because that's such a like it's a niche thing that you don't think you would be looking for, but there's so many people out there that are like, I would love to see this. Like I would love for this to happen. And I don't know. I think sometimes we get in our minds too much about like where we're like, man, this might not be good for like some people, but then there's a lot of people out there that are like, this is really cool. Like I love watching this.
I think like right now, like TikTok is kind of like one of those few new places where innovation is kind of happening, kind of like in the D&D space, because there's a time constraint, like you got to be able to say it in a minute, right? And to see like what people are able to actually get out in that minute, right?
Yeah.
And also I get a little salty too once people get up to the point where they can do like 3-minute lives. I'm like, I don't want your 3-minute live. I want you to do, I want 1 minute. That's it.
It's three times the amount I want.
Yeah, it's exactly 3 times the amount I want.
No, I love that, because I once they did implement that, I was like I also felt that way. I'm like, this is a lot of I'm like, this is a short YouTube video at this point.
Yeah. Like at this point, you should have just put it on YouTube. But no, it is cool because like they're building a community over there, and because of that time constraint, it does cause for innovation. And then me as a creator can go back and look at that, and sometimes someone will do a video of something like, I wonder if that's a video topic, right? And then like. And instead of like, I'm not going to pretend like I came up with some new idea. Why? Like, one, it's literally like a minute, so I can stick it right in our videos and go, hey, you should go check this person out. They're doing a really cool thing. They had this cool idea. Now here's what we think of that idea, or whatever. So
yeah, and I think that it makes it, again, like it's so translatable to like channels like that, and like I don't know, like I think it definitely has a lot of innovation. I think, because even for us, like I can easily say, and like I thank Kai every day about it, but like I can easily say like we wouldn't even have a platform as big as we do right now if we didn't have Kai out there like promoting it before we even like knew what we wanted to do with this. And I wouldn't even be sitting here right now with you if TikTok
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
do something amazing. So I agree. I definitely agree.
And I guess also too, like, I get we're in like year 7, so like there hasn't been any new, like, really new spaces in a long time. Like, there's kind of Twitch, but I don't see that as being that different than YouTube. You know, especially once YouTube kind of implemented the live aspect to it. You know,
Mhm.
it's just people playing D&D live, right? So like that's kind of been happening, and even before they were doing it live, like it me JP, I think he might be like the OG original like streamer for when it comes to live plays. And and they would stream them, stream different games, and then put them up, on YouTube. I mean, I feel like they kind of kicked off the hex crawl and the West Marches style game renaissance, right?
I could agree with that actually. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So like when we and that was they were around when we first started. So like there was that innovation. So like it's been like kind of years before we've gotten something like that. I would say was truly new with this with the TikTok community. So, but I mean, it's just so cool to see from like when I started playing in first edition to where we're at now. Like, what edition did you start with?
I started 3.5, but I because like oh God, when did I start? I started in 2000. I think I started right around you guys. No, because I graduated by then. Because my family was weird about like my family was like very sports orientated. So like by the
Yeah,
time I got out, like and I moved out and stuff, I think yeah, I got my first apartment, so it was 2014, and a buddy of mine showed me 3.5, and he DM'd. But then, like my other friend bought us all players handbooks for Christmas, and he was like, "I would love to do a campaign with you guys." And I was like, "Cool." And I ended up DMing the first one terribly, by the way. Was not great. Did not do a good job.
that's how
But
we all start, man.
yeah,
It's part of it.
yeah, I try to make sure everyone knows that too. It definitely is. But yeah, 3.5. And I still haven't played. I know Pathfinder adopts a lot of that. I still haven't played Pathfinder yet, but like I love 3.5, and it was a great jump in for me. I still have the books. Like I still go back and read it, but 5e is just I know it's easier for newcomers to kind of jump into it, is what a lot of people tell me.
Yeah, I still probably have some 3.5 books around here. I
I
have some.
want. Oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
I have some AD&D books too, but they as I look around for them, they were reacquired books because I have a terrible habit of like I tend to be the anti hoarder. I'm like if I don't touch something in 6 months, I want to get rid of it.
that's
I kind of regret it now because there's a lot of stuff that I wish I would have kept.
that's like I agree with that because I get I used to work before I did everything crazy. I used to manage a couple Game Stops, and like I would get so much. Like I would just come home with like so many promo things and so many like and just things that like they'd be like, yeah, throw out. And I'd be like, no, this is awesome in my house. Like
Yeah,
and I just started recently like kind of getting rid of a lot of stuff, and like I'm weird about that too. Like I usually if I don't touch it or if I don't mess with it, I'll get rid of it. But now I've been like really holding on to like a lot of the older things because I'm like this will be cooler in the future. But like again, space wise, like I keep everything up in my attic, so it's very
yeah.
hard to like prioritize it. But I agree with you, man. It's so hard.
You start running out of room. Like Ted is my yin to is the yin to my yang because he's the opposite. I mean, he comes from a long line of hoarders. Like they all just like to collect stuff. I always break his chops about having a plastic addiction.
There's so many cool things. It's so hard to not
It
be
it,
addicted. I feel it.
it is hard. It is hard. Yeah. So we're coming right up on the hour mark. Final thoughts before we head on out?
I mean, besides that, I really appreciate you having me on here. And that the catfish were. I'm kidding, but
It
uh,
worked. Yeah.
but no, I'm just really excited for the future. I'm really excited to kind of see everything that transpires. Like again, I mean, you can hear from all of my team like every day. I've been super excited to see the future of this, and I'm excited to see more from the D&D community in general. I love interacting with everybody, and I love being able to kind of give my piece to it. I love them being able to give their piece back.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Best of luck with Tales of Initiative. Keep our eyes open, and until next time, everyone, stay nerdy.